Today I want to share a testimony, just share out of my heart, something that I've experienced. Have you ever heard of the trail of God? I'm going to read to you Isaiah 6 verse 1. Isaiah had this beautiful experience. He was taken up in heaven and he said, let me rephrase. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw Adonai sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. And the train of his robe filled the temple. I once experienced the train of his robe coming over my face, and I couldn't speak for 24 hours. I was so afraid to say anything. So let's backtrack. What happened there? I was on a mission outreach, and we were praying in one of the churches that we visited. I'm not going to give all the details, but we were praying in this church for up to 6 hours. We were about 5 or 8 people. I can't remember exactly. But we were praying and we were worshiping, but we keep encouraging in each other to stay in the presence of God. And after about 5-6 hours, our bodies were really tired. And we all just lay on the floor. And the moment we just rested in God, because God said, rest in me. If you don't know the rest in me, you will not find me. And we just started to rest in God after we've dedicated everything to Him. We prayed, we worshipped, we lifted Him up. Your body gets tired of that amount of presence of God. And we laid down, and as we laid on the floor, we saw the circle, the sapphire circle, just coming down, and a heaviness that came down on us. Not one of us even tried to say something. You were too afraid to just breathe of that heaviness that came down. And as that sapphire circle, and it was not the sunlight, because there's no sun in this church, so it was impossible for any light to do this. We all saw this sapphire circle coming down, and the next moment, you just felt the train of his robe. Jesus said, the earth is the footstool of God. And that day, I've experienced that. And it is as real as me sitting in front of you, telling you the story. You can reject it, you can accept it. But as that presence of God came down, and the train of his robe started to flow over my face, I opened my eyes to see what was going on, and there was nothing. And I closed my eyes, but with my eyes opened or with my eyes closed, I couldn't get rid of this feeling of this robe that was just coming over my face. We laid there, I can't remember for how long, very, very still, knowing that God is present. That evening we had a service, and I was too afraid to speak. For the next 24 hours, I nearly didn't say a word. Now, if you know me, I love to talk. Not because I love to hear my own voice, but I love to share and encourage and give people hope. It's so part of me, I cannot stop it. But I couldn't speak. I was just so quiet. And that evening, we had a service, and as I stood up to say something, the moment I said something, the power of God started to flow in that service. We had so many people being delivered. I have to tell you this, that evening, they there was a man, he was in the occult, and the presence of God came down. We didn't know he was in the occult. We thought he was part of the whole sermon, and we didn't ask where they were coming from. I'm not even going to tell where this happened. But he ran out as the presence of God came in. He ran out of the building, and when he got out of the building, he felt, but this is gone. And he ran back into the building, and he was afraid, and he ran out of the building, and he came back into the building. And he stayed there, and he was set free. He was set free just by the presence of a living God. And yes, we discipled him, and we left him with the church to disciple him further. But what was so interesting, because we dedicated our whole beings to God, we dedicated everything that was in that room to God, we encouraged each other to stay in that presence. The moment we got to rest and we lay down, God said, now that you are finished with your own stuff, now I can step in and just reveal my presence. And all he did, he came down with that sapphire throne, not upon us, but we were aware of it. I can't even say it was that I see through if I just seen in the spirit world. I cannot tell you where the roof was, but I felt the train of his robe that filled that temple. Isaiah experienced that even before Jesus died, even before Jesus lived, even before the resurrection. And if Isaiah, that did not have the grace and the blood of Jesus Christ, saw that, experienced that, how much more can we as children of God that got the blood of Jesus Christ, the resurrection power of God, how much more do we have that ability to step in to Jesus? John 10 verse 9, step into Jesus and experience the train that fills the temple. We are the temple. The train of his robe wants to fill us so that we can have the victory that if we walk out into this world, the world's atmosphere will be changed and the glory of God will be seen. I end off with this. Smith Wigglesworth, with times, locked himself up because the presence of God was so strong on him that the outside world couldn't handle it. Smith Wigglesworth was so used to angels singing around him. He was used to that. He was a man that couldn't read, but he was used to the presence of a living God. You too can experience that if you will just relax and say, God, I've done my part. I've worshipped you. Thank you that I can experience you and just lift you up. And then your body will say, it's now too much. And your spirit will step right into the rest of God. And as you step into the rest of God, through that open door, Jesus Christ, you will experience and feel the train of his robe that fills this temple. Child of God, friend, may that be your portion. May you experience the fullness of a living God. In Jesus Christ's name. Shalom.